Alrighty. So now let's start with the exercises. And hopefully, of course, I'm sure everybody forgot what we were talking about over lunch. So let me give you a brief recap. Brief recap. Brief recap. So we had 5 scenarios, and we will do the exercises for these exact scenarios. So in the first one, we want to find all of the drugs with this ingredient. And we said what we want to do is to find a standard ingredient that says this word that is hard to spell, add it to the concept set, add all the sentence, and you're done. So this is what we're going to do first. Then the second scenario is a given ingredient with a given route of administration. So we want sulfasalazine oral. And what we did there, we found that ingredient, added the sentence, looked into included concepts, and selected oral forms. That was the second scenario. The third scenario was the combo drugs. We yet again started with the first ingredient, then found clinical drug forms that also have the second ingredient. Then in scenario number 4, we're going to use ATC to find this class. And as you remember, what we do when we have an ATC class is we include that, and then we look for RX norm ingredients, add RX norm ingredients, remove ATC, and use RX norm ingredients. And then finally, scenario number 5, which probably was the most complex, so we're just going to replicate what we did for systemic corticosteroids. And there we included ATC codes for systemic corticosteroids, and removed ingredients because we don't want them, because ingredients do not carry route of administration. So now we're going to again split into teams, and we have some lots of people, so now it's going to be new teams. And each of the teams will go into Atlas and we'll start creating those scenarios, and we again have our teaching assistants here to help with that. But, so the goal is to get through as many scenarios as possible in the next 30 minutes. And those who have the most scenarios completed correctly, we have some chocolates. So maybe that would be added incentive to feed our brain with some much needed glucose. So with that, let this group be the first group, and then you guys at the back will be the second group. And similarly, again, these two rows will be one group. Then those rows, we have scattered people, so you can be another group. And similarly here, you can just get into groups how you essentially like. You know, at this point, I'm not going to point at people, and you're like in this group. So let's get started. And we want to stop, and I will tell you when we have 5 minutes to go, so that you can keep track, and chocolates are waiting for you, so please make sure you put some effort in. Are there any questions? Wonderful. All right, one small thing. If you're in the team, pick one person who's going to be doing Atlas browsing, and let that person do the browsing, because we have many people hitting Atlas at the same time. So that's why it takes long for you to see the results. So pick one person, they'll be doing Atlas browsing, and then the rest, if you don't touch it, that would help you with the speed.
And if it spins, don't click again, because then you're going to set off another job. And then you click again, and it sets another job, and all these jobs have to run through. They don't stop. So if you have to wait, unfortunately, just wait. Okay.
And I saw people doing this, so I want to also highlight. If you went to Athena and found the concept ID, you don't have to search for it in Atlas. You can copy the concept ID, go into concept sets, create new concept set, click on import, paste your concept ID there, and that will be added. So you don't have to go, if you have concept ID, you don't have to go through search again. You can import your concept IDs directly, and that's going to be faster.
All right, giving you guys a 2-minute warning. 2 minutes to try to finish up the scenarios, then we'll walk them through together. All right. How many people feel kind of good about their answers so far? Okay, like a third of the groups are feeling kind of good. Okay. So here's the game that we're going to play. Switch my screen here. See if that flips over. There we go. Okay. So Anna has challenged me to present all 5 questions in under 15 minutes. So I'm going to show you exactly how to get to the answers, and we'll go purposely quick just so you can see a process to get to each of these. But what I want you to do is for each of your teams, I want you to keep track. After we do scenario 1, I'm going to ask you, did you get the same answer as me? Okay, and I want you to have you raise your hands. And I want you to keep track as a team of how many of the 5 scenarios you got, because as Anna mentioned before, there may be prizes, okay? All right, so I'm going to set the timer on myself here. All right, let's see how fast I can do this. Scenario 1 is create a concept set with the ingredient of acetaminophen. Okay? So I've got this concept set here. I'm going to search the vocabulary for acetaminophen. Oops, and I misspelled it. Already screwing my time. All right.
Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry.
Oh, now you're screwing with me. Yeah. All right, I'm still gonna win the time challenge here. We see acetaminophen right there. I'm just gonna add acetaminophen plus the descendants to the concept set. That's all you need to do. If you know an ingredient, you just basically find the ingredient, find that it's a standard, in this case in RX norm, plus descendants. You'll see that you now have a very succinct concept set expression, acetaminophen plus descendants, but you can also see that acetaminophen or paracetamol, depending on whatever country you're in, has 26,000 standard concepts representing all the different dose forms and everything. But you can have this one simple instantiation to get that. Raise your hand, teams, if you got scenario 1 correct. All right, very good. So it looks like most teams got the first one right. Well done. Well done. So keep track, you got 1. So, number 2, we're supposed to find only oral forms of sulfasalazine. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to search the vocabulary. Sulfasalazine. I'm going to select and add that ingredient, sulfasalazine, to my concept set expression. But now I have to be concerned about what are the different formulations of sulfasalazine. So I'm going to go into my included concepts. And as Oleg nicely explained before, we can think about which of these various classes we may be interested in. And I'm going to be particularly interested in looking at the clinical drug form. We can see that there are 11 different clinical drug forms for sulfasalazine. And I'm just going to make choices about which one of these would we classify as oral and which ones would be non-oral. So I'm going to start by just selecting, I'm going to select all of them. And then I'm going to, what is that, clinical drug form? I'm going to select all of those guys, but then I'm going to look through this and see which one of these are not oral. So an enema is not oral, and these rectal solution suppository suspensions are not. Everything else is an oral formulation, including extended release of various tablets and capsules. So I'm going to add that to my concept set. I'm going to then remove the ingredient from the concept set, leaving myself with only clinical drug formulations, 529 included concepts in total. Did anybody get this as a solution for number 2? Well done. Okay. All right. We're making progress. So, all right, we're going to do number 3, and then we'll take a poll of the standing to see where we're at. No. Question. Go ahead. 527. What was the other? What were the one that you didn't pick? Oh, plus the dose group. Got it. That would be equivalent. Yeah. So the dose group concepts are classification concepts. So it's okay that you would have them in there, but we wouldn't expect data to be loaded on those things. But it would be the equivalent set of standard concepts that you would see there. So that's good. That's totally good. All right. So we've got number 2. Now we're doing amoxicillin, and we're specifically looking for combination products. So I'm going to search for amoxicillin. In this particular case, I'm going to try to select the ingredient that we have here. I'm going to add it to my descendant list. But now I have to determine how to restrict to only those combinations that I'm interested in. So I'm going to go to the included concepts. And I'll pick our clinical, I guess we can do clinical dose group here, since that was the one that we just heard from. And in this context, I can see that there are 44 clinical dose groups for amoxicillin, but we are specifically interested in the ones that are the combination, of which there are 5 dose groups that contain that. So I'm just going to select those 5 clinical dose group concepts that contain the combinations I'm interested in. I'm going to add them to my descendant list. I'm going to then remove my ingredient, being left with now 3,454 included concepts. Anybody get number 3 scenario right? A couple, okay. All right, so with 3 down, let's see how many teams have 1 right answer. How many teams have 2 right answers? And how many teams have 3 right answers? All right, that was like a disjoint set of hands there. I'm not sure what happened there. I'll be more precise in asking next time. All right, so you have a question?
No, number 3 was not the us, not only amoxicillin, but the combination of.
Can you say it again? Okay. Good. Yes, go ahead. Sure. So let's do that. Let's do it again.
Into the classificational hierarchy. So she's actually right. Yeah. So the right
So
upper function
should we?
is like recipe.
So we'll use drug form and do it again. Okay. So here we go. Let's do it. Let's just do it again. We're going to take amoxicillin, add that ingredient. I chose dose groups, but we could have chosen drug forms. And I think the highlight is we might actually see that we're going to get slightly more things, particularly because RxStorm extension may have things mapped into the dose form, a drug form, but not the dose group. So I'll take clinical drug group, clinical drug form. There we go. And play the same trick that I will search for those things, and I'm going to see that I've got 18 products that have that combination. If I select all of those guys and add them to my concept set, and then I will just go ahead and remove that ingredient to get rid of the non-combinations I'm interested in. And indeed, we've got quite a few more included concepts in this set. And in fact, if we can look at it, we can see that there's quite a lot of RxStorm extension concepts that are represented in that side.
No chocolate for you.
I lose. I get no chocolate.
So the reason for it, so there is a safe way.
Here you go.
Safe ways to do drug forms. But if you really only have drugs that are mapped to RX form, you'll be fine with any. You'll be fine with those groups, you'll be fine with drug forms. The problem is when you have drugs mapped to RX extension, which you will know if you have such a data source. This is where you want to be on the careful side and only select drug forms. But for most of the people who have their drugs mapped to RX form, for them, the difference will not result in any different counts, different patient counts, because they don't have data loaded on RX extension.
Where's the description of what's in RxStorm extension?
RX extension.
I said it's on the GitHub and the if I was
Yeah,
clicking
we
on
have-
all those links and they say the pages are to be created.
We will, actually, we don't know how to distribute it, so I will just give you the link personally. But there is documentation, and in a nutshell, what it is we took vocabularies from different countries, non-US, and we created the vocabulary that follows the very same structure and sits underneath our form. So that's that's in a nutshell what it is. We created it so you may have dogs naturally. In the same ways to do drug forms, but again, if you have drugs loaded on our form, it doesn't do anything.
And that's what's in our extension.
As opposed to ours. I'm gonna send you the link while Patrick is continuing.
There's one more question? Yep.
Yeah, could you explain this, what is this dose group? What is a dose group?
Sure. So in RX norm, in terms of their classifications, dose group is a higher level grouping of all of the drug forms. And so, to give you a very simple example, you can see things like oral tablet, oral capsule, oral pills, and all of those will be under the parent dose group of oral product. And so it's a grouping of formulations, basically. Yeah, so RX norm is the vocabulary that manages those relationships and those groupings. And then, as Anna was explaining, for RX norm extension, we are trying to follow that exact pattern in terms of mapping things in. The RX norm is managed by the U.S. National Library of Medicine. So if you just Google RX norm, you will find very extensive documentation on their website about that. All right, next one is, so I don't get chocolate for that, but thank you for catching it. So they've got one team that's beating me. Let's see if I can catch up to you. We're going to do interleukin inhibitors. So we can see that there is an ATC class of interleukin inhibitors. I can select that ATC class, but we remember the trick that we learned earlier, which is that we don't want to just use the ATC class, but rather we're going to use the ATC class as a mechanism to find the ingredients that belong to the class. So we're going to go we're going to look at the included concepts. We're going to see that there are 16 ingredients, and I'm going to go ahead and select all of those ingredients and add them to my concept set. One of the things you may have noticed as that included concept list was changing is that now I no longer need this ATC class. But in fact, we have a larger, more robust set of concepts because, of course, the ATC class has those direct relationships down to the RX norm clinical drugs and that indirect relationship with the ingredient. And by grabbing the ingredient, we're now going to get all of the representations in RX norm for those ingredients. So you should now have a concept set with 16 ingredients, collectively representing 1,466 included concepts. Who got scenario 4 correct? All right, we got some, all right, good. All right, so that's scenario 4. So now, how many teams got at least one right? Raise your hand. Everybody should have got at least one. Yeah. At least one. All right, keep your hand up if you had at least 2. Keep your hand up if you got at least 3. All right, and a hand up if you have all 4 thus far. Okay, we're down to like 4 teams, it looks like. Okay, so the last one was a repeat. So this should be a gimme if you had paid attention to Oleg, but I'm going to actually purposely try to walk through it in a slightly different way. The task is corticosteroids for systemic use. So I'm going to start by searching for corticosteroids. Steroids for systemic use. We remember that this is in ATC, and we can actually just see right immediately here that the ATC second class, this code of H02, contains corticosteroids for systemic use, and that, at least on the surface, sounds like exactly what we wanted. But we can also see that if we look at the lower levels of that, we see corticosteroids for systemic use plain and corticosteroids for systemic use combinations, which raises the question, at least in my mind, what other things might fall under corticosteroids for systemic use. So if I'm interested in that, I may select that particular high-level concept, corticosteroids for systemic use. When I do that, I can look at the included concepts. And if I was interested in understanding what are those classes that are falling in ATC, we can actually see that there are, in fact, indeed 3 classes. We saw the 2 of them that contain corticosteroids for systemic use, both the plain and combination. But we can also see that 8 anti-adrenal preparations also are here under this class, and that may not be something that I'm interested in. And specifically in this case, it turns out that it's ketoconazole, which most people wouldn't classically consider a corticosteroid for systemic use. So I'm going to actually focus on these 2 subclasses, excluding the adrenal and anti-adrenal preparation. I'm going to remove the high-level class. And now at this juncture, I have selected 2 ATC classes, and I have everything that falls under it. But there was a gotcha trick that we had to remember, which is because we have direct relationships from these ATC classes down to the clinical drugs, and we have an additional helper function that walks through the ingredients, if I specifically want to limit myself to corticosteroids for systemic use, I need to make sure that I get rid of anything where I'm not sure that it's a systemic use. And specifically in this context, we would need to make sure that we don't have the ingredients by themselves in our concept list. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go find the ingredients. Here, there's 21 of them. And I'm going to select all of those ingredients. And I'm simply going to exclude them from my concept set. What that's going to leave me with is a concept set expression that basically has the classifications from ATC minus the ingredients themselves. I'm going to allow all of the lower level clinical drug concepts to flow through, but I want to remove anything where it just says prednisone, because I can't ensure that prednisone by itself is necessarily an oral systemic use. So this should be a pretty good solution. You can see that there are 17,008 included concepts that fall under this relatively succinct expression. So let me just stop there and see how many people got scenario 5 correct. Only a couple hands. Okay. All right. So let me ask, what did people get tripped up with on this one? This one's a very tricky one. So curious, what issues did you guys run into for this one? Yes. Forgot to remove the ingredients? Okay. So you picked the ATC classes then, but forgot to remove the ingredients. So just to illustrate the potential, let's go ahead. Yep. What would you like to look at in the included concept list? Yeah, so let me illustrate that point specifically. So let's imagine in the first scenario when we did interleukin inhibitors, I said, let's just grab the ingredients. That's really the idea we wanted. If I were to do that, I'm going to actually redo this purposely. I'm going to keep these guys, and I'm going to delete all of the ingredients. Actually, no, I'm going to do it even easier than that. I'm just going to change all of these things to be include descendants. So imagine I took the ingredients and I said I just want all the ingredients plus their descendants. What you'll see when I take all of these corticosteroids is I now have 17,000 included concepts. And that's because corticosteroids come in lots of different formulations. And in fact, you're going to see that the most common formulations that are going to appear are going to be like topical creams and other non-systemic uses. Here, I've actually sorted on the record count, and you can actually see something that's actually quite interesting is we actually see quite a lot of records, at least in this data network set of counts. We see a lot of records that are just directly loaded on the ingredient concept itself. So if I had a record of dexamethasone, I have no clue what the formulation of that is. So if I particularly care about getting systemic use, I need to exclude it. Or I need to be conscious that I'm including it in my set, wary of the fact that I potentially am uncertain about that. But if I look at some other formulations that are in here, slowly, yeah, we can see that, for example, we've got various topical creams and topical solutions that pop in across the range of things. It's only by, and that's because all of those are valid clinical drugs of one of these ingredients, but they do not have a relationship up to these ATC classes. Rather, if I remove all of those, if I take the descendants of these guys, and I'll just ignore these for a second. What you'll actually see is that you will have included in here, you'll have both of the ingredients, but you will now not have anything that's topical, because ATC has implicitly managed the systemic component of that grouping. And so by taking the ATC classes and then identifying the ingredients to remove the uncertainty, I can simply just exclude the ingredient records, and all that's going to leave me with is specific clinical drugs for which it asserts very cleanly that the formulation is a systemic use through oral or injection. Yeah, Lexi. Yeah, good question, Alexei. So to be clear, what I'm doing here, if I take this record prednisone, what I'm saying is any corticosteroid for systemic use plain which contains prednisone, I want to have that because ATC's told us that it's prednisone. But if I just have a record of just prednisone, I want to remove it. If I were to click exclude plus descendants, I'd be saying remove not only the ingredient prednisone, but all products containing prednisone. There could be clinical reasons why you could run in situations where, for example, you select all ingredients of a given class, but there's a reason you actually want to like remove one, for example. Or to take an inverted version of the combination product that we looked at for like amoxicillin, you could say, for example, find me all combinations of products except for the ones that contain clavinate or whatever. Like so this could be a mechanism for you to basically provide operations to, in a succinct expression, kind of remove large swaths of things. The main real takeaway that I want you all to have about this, though, is that for all of these things, we were creating concept sets and source code lists that were containing tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of codes, but it was all done with concept set expressions that are very succinct in terms of, a dozen or so expressions. Good? Very good. So, final tally. How many people had at least one right? Everybody had at least one right. Congratulations. How many people had at least two right? How many people had at least three right? 3 out of 5 would be passing a test in the United States, so that's pretty good. How many had 4 right? Okay, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams got 4 right, so you guys get a B. And how many people had 100%, all 5 right? Polina, that seems a little bit cheating. It would have been incredibly disappointed if she had not gotten all 5 right. But congratulations, Polina, you can have a piece of chocolate, and we'll also, the teams with 4. All right. Now my turn. Yes. So what I'm going to do for you is, will you use my laptop?
No.
Or you want to use this?
Yeah, we're. Is presentation open here?
Yeah, I put my presentation. I put your presentation on.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I can do it myself for sure.
Okay. No. Yeah. So you should be good to. Let me just hold my other crap up.
Yeah, that will be a good idea.
There we go. Sorry, I thought I closed everything. Definitely.
Or maybe we can switch to this.
It's just for the Atlas things. Just to make sure that it works for you.
Okay, thanks.
This is what you want.
He somehow turned this thing off. I don't know how he did it.
Did what?
Turned that screen off.
Uh-oh. He's getting it.
Oh, maybe he turned it off.
You guys will
Yeah, that's mine.
so that mouse won't work, so you'll be using it.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you go back from Atlas to just let's check it?
Yeah, I can.
Uh-huh.
It should work.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, that's great. Hello, my name is Vlad. I'm vocabulary team lead at some sort, and I'm going to finalize the story about the patients that are diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis and were treated with all this cytotoxic stuff, and they have or potentially have adverse events related to this treatment. And one of these adverse events is neutropenia. It's very common, and for some degree, it is likely to be this severe. And the section of this tutorial we named "How I Treat or Recognize Neutropenia," and the name is inspired by a series of articles published in ASH, where clinicians describe their experience and management strategies for different hematological conditions. So let's start with just a generic introduction to neutropenia and to the brand new domain we do not discuss today, the measurement domain in OMAP. So what neutropenia is? It depends on for whom you ask for. If you ask for the definition for the patient, it will be the simple definition, and we will use it for this section. Neutropenia is just low neutrophil counts in your peripheral blood, and that's it. But if you ask the academic person or clinician, you will have the more detailed explanation what is neutropenia. And if you ask the person who is analyst in OMAP, you will have a really good discussion that we already have with Dima after this vocabulary February 2024 release about what is really neutropenia, because such type of clinical events that occur during the treatment course or course of disease of patient may be stored in different tables in your source data, and they may be stored in different tables and different landings in OMAP. So that is why we create these 3 different blocks. This is just some sort of minimal amount of blocks. Neutropenia can be captured as a measurement. It can be captured as just a generic diagnosis because it's very human-like. Doctors want to save as much time as they can and use only one terminology they are familiar with. So that's the reason why they put all the laboratory abnormalities they observe into the conditions. And we will discuss how to define the true measurements that exist in your data and discuss the standard ways to represent it with OMAP standard terminologies. So, oops, not that space button. Okay, I will focus at the very beginning of this slide on the path where we define the measurements via diagnosis. So let's test the hypothesis that I am not wrong and neutropenia truly exists as a condition. I will switch to Atlas. Can you hear me or? Yeah, okay. I will switch to Atlas. I would prefer to close the concept set that was created by Tanya and make the new one. Let me call it like neutropenia conditions. Neutropenia conditions. Sorry for typos. And let's add the concept, or at least try to find it. So you already know that the majority of conditions are encoded into in your data with ICD, and I am going to look for this concepts. I will just write neutropenia. Yeah, that's okay. And press the search button. And now I'm going to filter their vocabularies based on their relation to ICD family. And I see that the majority of them are US-based, and I will pick just as an example ICD-10-CM. So now we can see that this is the list of all the ICD-10-CM terms that have okay. Is it better? Okay, it should. Now we see the entire list of ICD-10-CM codes that have the neutropenia as a part of their preferred names. And the interesting thing that we can observe here is that one half of these codes belong to the condition domain, and the other half are assigned as measurements. And you already know how to work with conditions. Tanya helped you, and we have this pretty good exercise with assembling conditions. And I want to focus your attention on the these three particular codes that are related to measurements, and we will try to understand the nature of such changes and how we have to deal with them. So I will pick only one concept, the prototypical one, the D70, because we already know this is a hierarchical parent for all of the leftovers. And I will open the card of this concept just to look at the way how it represented as standard. So this red colored one is source ICD-10 neutropenia. Now we're switching to related concept tab. This is just a visual representation of concept relationship table, and we're going to relationships. When we are doing the exercise for conditions, we see only one mapping related relationship, non-standard to standard map, or simply maps to relationship. Just click on it, and we will see that the event that were retrieved by this selection is the term that belonged to the SNOMED vocabulary inside a measurement domain with the name neutrophil count. However, this relationship is not the lonely one. We have one more maps to relationship that help us to explain the original term that exists in ICD-10 CM in all the details to capture all the flavors. And now I will select it, and the output result into the addition of new concept that belong to measurement value domain. The domain its own and the concept its own are not expected to be used to create any events, and they are used to and they are designed to be used as a logical pairs or counterparts for concepts within measurement or observation domain. Such scenario for representation we call post-coordination, the case when one source semantic is represented by two or potentially more logically related to each other concepts. So for now, the entire semantics that exists in ICD-10 CM lives as a pair of concepts. One maps to the measurement domain and the other maps to value. This is a good thing when you are starting work with source concepts, to look at the types of the relationship that exist. So it would be great if you will not just pick only non-standard to standard maps, but also check do this source concept has or not alternative mapping relationships. So I have to make the interesting trick. I will do it, and you will understood it a little bit later what I'm doing. I just put the ID for this mesh value concept into the clipboard and do the exercise you did a lot of time today. Just simply add the neutrophil count into the concept set we currently created. So just press the button. Okay, so it seems like we are done. We created the concept set. Let me check, is it okay? Yeah, it seems to be true. The concept is okay. We call it entropy and conditions. And now we have to play the tricks with the screen or tab where that we haven't used during the today's session, the cohort definition tab. The reason for that is that measurement their own are not frequently sufficient to define events, and we have to somehow reflect this complex logic that lives in vocabularies with these pairs, values and events. So that is why I'm switching to cohort definition tab, and I will create the new cohort. This is the use tab during this presentation, but let's wait. New cohort. And I will name it like something generic. Entropenia OHDSI 2406. I don't know. Let's do it this way and save it. So now we have to either add an an initial event or inclusion criteria. No matter, I will focus on the initial event, but It depends on the design of the study you want to either replicate or to run. So I will just show you what fields are affected by this maps to value logic. So first of all, we know that the concept we already added into the concept set belong to the measurement domain. That is why we have to select the additional criteria or initial event that belongs to this domain, so add measurement. We have to import the concept set that was created. Yeah, we are waiting for the import window and press on the name of the concept set you created in Atlas. So that seems to be a true story for all the conditions, all the procedures, at some degree for observations, but for measurements it's always almost not true that this representation is complete, because we have to somehow additionally define them, and the way how we can do it is just by adding attributes that represent the entire semantic of the measurement. So I just make a recall. We started from ICD 10 CM, from conditions. No numbers, no units, nothing, just generic terms. And we know that we already capture the neutrophil count, and we have to add this below reference range somewhere. This criteria has a really straightforward name, value as concept criteria. And we just add this attribute to complete our definition. We either can click add and search for proper values, or use the import tab the same way we did for source concepts, source codes, or whatever else. That is the reason why I've put the concept ID in a clipboard, because Atlas, at least for now, do not support the importing of the concept set, and that is a bad thing, but yeah. Oops, Control V. Oh. Okay, I know the concept, so I will switch. Yeah, I will do the things that, yeah, it's not a bad thing, but yeah, I will do it this way. I will look at the below reference range, and I will expect that I will not make a lot of typos. The team I'm working with are always struggling with this. Below reference range, image value. Okay, this is the standard SNOMED, that's okay. We have no idea about this Loing code, and I don't want to add it. So for this demo, that's it, and we are done. So now we define the measurement using logical pairs. We define the neutropenia as logical pair of event from measurement table or measurement domain, the concept neutrophil count, and corresponding value below reference range. Let me save this. Yeah, so that's it. In case when you have alternative source terminologies with conditions like generic ICD-10, ICD-9 CM, Korean modification, etc., you can do the same exercise. Either I did, or the same exercise done by Tanya. So I think that it will not be that tricky. So the main point is that you have to understand how to work with this logical groups. Now I'm going to switch to the presentation and trying to complete okay. So now we're going to talk about at least a little bit about the measurements their own, the measurements that exist in laboratory tables, the tables with numerics, with units, and with laboratory results. We expect that all of these terms and all of these events may exist as source terminologies that are not distributed through Athena, or you're lucky in case when they are already stored as a Loings or SNOMED in your data. Yeah. So when we are discussing measurements their own, we have to think about several things at once. So first of all, we have to define the proper laboratory tests and laboratory codes. So we have to somehow find them. At the second step, we have to link these codes with proper values. We did this exercise just 2 minutes ago, we already create the categorical one. And during the last part of the presentation, I will be focused on the numerical ones. And when we are talking about the numericals, numbers per se means almost nothing, and we have to describe them with proper units of measure. Oops. So, yeah. Now I'm going to talk about the measurements and proper laboratory tests, and we want to dive a little bit deeper into the way how these concepts live within the OMA vocabularies. So there are two main players in this game. One is the SNOMED with its broad terms, and you can see them in a bold in this, I don't know, brown colored, yellow colored block, neutrophil count. And the other player is LOINC. LOINC is very specific, LOINC is narrow, but yeah, let me call it this way. And you can see the name of the LOINC that we want to retrieve at the end of the exercise is neutrophils with number per volume in blood. So compared to the SNOMED one, it is really, really specific. The other thing you should know about these two guys is that they create the webs, or they are organized in some sort of webs or hierarchies. They are juxtaposed ideally once upon other, like SNOMED is the parent for LOINC, but it's not the ultimative thing. So, and the other thing is that they have lateral relationships, not vertical like ISA subsumes, but lateral to attributes. These attributes are building blocks that creates these concepts, and we will use them a little bit later during this presentation to find proper targets. So we will go through this web in order to minimize the number of iterations with searching and researching, and we will find proper targets. And potentially I will be lucky to explain how it works. Okay, let me check. So now I'm going again to Atlas, again to concept sets. And the good thing is that we already add the SNOMED one, the very generic one, the neutrophil count. And I want to just simply copy this concept set. The Atlas functionality offers it. Then we create the new one. Waiting for a second. Still waiting. Okay, so that's it. Let's rename it. Now we're going about true measurements. True measurements. Yeah. Save this concept set. The only difference that I want to add, at least for now, is to enable all the descendants for this code. And the reason is the fact that I know that SNOMED and LOINC are likely to exist in a web. So I want to include the descendants and look at the vertical lines in this web. Switch to included concepts. We already did it several times. And make prioritizations. I would prefer to use purely vocabulary stuff, and we'll order and arrange this concept based on the levels of separations, the depths, how the concept is far from the distance, how far this concept from the original one, the parental one. So the first concept is the concept we picked, the neutrophil count. It's really great, nothing to change here. But let's look at the concept number 2, number 3, number 4. They have some alterations in their naming, and this alteration seems to be unnecessary, at least for us, because if we refer to our initial simple definition of neutropenia, neutropenia is just neutrophils, and they are just low in blood, and that's it. 3 words: neutrophils, blood, and low. Nothing about bands, nothing about hypersegmented, and this is something that I can do easily because I have a clinical background, but I understood that it can be tricky for some of us. So if we will scroll a little bit down, we will find that the row number 5 has proper analyte, proper component, neutrophil count, and it's okay. But the trick is that the specimen that is used to perform this analysis is weird. This is a cerebrospinal fluid, and we don't want to include it. And if we will scroll all this list, the list is not that big, so you can manually check it. We will find that all of the descendants are irrelevant for our definition. So we don't want to pick any of this. So the right answer, if we want to complete with this concept set, will be to switch again to the concept set window and disable descendants. But I don't want to do this because I don't want to make any extra searches, and I want you to show how this web is organized, and for some degree it will help you in future when you will work with Loinks and SNOMED. So just look, 2 of these codes at the very bottom of this list belong to the measurement domain, and they are Loink codes. One of them is the segmented neutrophils number per volume in blood, and the other one is the same with addition of specified method that is used to perform this calculation. So I want to explore how these concepts are organized, and I will show you how we can use this web and lateral relationships. So I just open the concept, the segmented neutrophils, and go to the related concepts tab. Until now, you used only mappings relationship to help your you in decision making. But now I want you to show how the lateral relationship that we ingested, I mean, vocabulary team for many years into the concept relationship table may help you. So now I want to focus on one specific attribute of Loink that corresponds to the component or analyte, something that was tested in specimen or by some method, and I will filter against the class Loink component. The same trick I can do using the relationship, but yeah, let me stop here, and yeah, that's it. So now we can see that the Loink term from the standard term from laboratory test concept class has only one link and only one concept that belong to Loink component class, the segmented neutrophils. I know the fact that all of the attributes that exist in SNOMED and Loink are likely to be organized into hierarchies, and that's the good thing. So I want to test it, and yeah, it will work for you in future and for this demo. So I will open this segmented neutrophils card. This one is red colored, and trying to look at the hierarchy table, because it's, yeah, it is an expected behavior of all of us. Nothing is found, and that's okay, because this concept is red colored, non-standard term, and all of the non-standard terms do not participate in assembling of specific vocabulary table, concept ancestor, the table that we used to create all this concept set based on vertical relationships. So, but I still know and or assume that, or guess, that there is some hierarchy. And I will check it. Vocabulary team do not delete rows, do not delete concepts, and everything is preserved in concept relationship, even if it was added by mistake. So let's look at the valid relationship with the vertical ones, and we will find that this segmented neutrophil has 10 subsumes relationship, that it means that at least 10 children exist for this concept, and 1 is A. And it is very clear that if we want to lose the details, so the details means segmented, we have to go up, and we use the is A relationship. I will just click. So now we see the Loink component neutrophils, and I will open this card. The reason for opening this card is quite simple. I will reverse the exercise we did. So at the very beginning, I started my way from laboratory test to component, and now I'm going from components to proper laboratory tests. So I'm switching to related concept tab. and filter against standard, laboratory tests, measurements, and even can be more specific, component of the reverse relationship. And now the list of the codes become quite easy to read, 37 codes only, and we can arrange them somehow, either by record counts or, I don't know, any vocabulary specific things. But let's do it by record counts. And we see that the very, very top code is the code we really want. The neutrophils, number per volume in blood, with just a little specification how this calculation occur. We can just look at all this list and understood the pattern for naming, and we will find that all the codes that are related to blood will have blood in its name. So that's the reason why I'm going to type in a filter the word blood. And the list that contains initially 37 codes will contain only 6. And now we are going to select from this 6. And it will be easy because now you can prioritize by counts of records that exist in your data, or anything else, or just simply review irrespective of counts. So now we know that the first one is okay, the second one, and the third one. The number 4, number 5, and number 6 are irrelevant because number 6 and number 7, no, number 5, number 6, sorry, contain the information about the really specific specimen type, the fetal or cord blood. So we are talking about the adult patients, so we don't care about, at least for now, about the blood of fetus. And the fourth one is the just stuff needed to control the quality of the. Okay, sorry, I'm not in time. We will add these concepts to the concept set, and yeah, let's look at them. I would remind you that we want to not to include the neutrophil counts descendants, and we are going to save this concept set. Then, just to save all of our time, I switch to the presentation because we have prepared the backup. So at the Atlas right now, we prepared the concept set for laboratories that will be likely used to define proper measurements in OMAP. 3 law encodes and 1 SNOMED. So, but we know that we have to deal somehow with values, the numerical ones, and units. And the best strategy, the gold one we discussed even yesterday, how you can help yourself to define the proper ranges, is just to explore your data, understand the main metrics and statistics related to each of the laboratory tests to make insights. In case when these insights are not clear, you can, of course, Google or, I don't know, ask chatbots to help you and assist with defining these results, and you can find that all these laboratory tests can be reflected with different units of measure and with different thresholds. And you have to keep it in mind when you're making this final definition of the measurement concept set, that you should always look at the numerics that exist in your data, the numerics that are provided in the abstracts, whatever else. And yeah, this is a screenshot of how the resulting cohort and the resulting definition will look like. So the first gray colored block is the way to represent the measurements as combinations of measurement itself plus categorical values. This is the scenario when we map ICD terms to post-coordinated measurements. The second gray-colored block is the way how to represent measurements using numerics and units. Be aware that we use only we use this between statement for this particular example to exclude and prevent addition of implausible values. So you have to do the same when you're dealing with measurements. So that's basically it. For sure, we can somehow augment these concepts. But yeah, we can discuss it either during the second step. It looks like, yeah, that's it. I'm not sure. Are we going to replicate? Okay, I would ask Anna or Patrick to assist me. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So it is break time. Before we break, though, I want to close this by trying to give you 3 points that I want you to take away. Number one, you just got to see examples of looking through conditions, drugs, and then a more complex case of measurements. But in all of them, what I hope that you came away with is that the standardized vocabularies that we have a wealth of information you can take advantage of. Vocabulary is not just a tool for ETL, but it's actually a tool to facilitate research. And you all can create concept set expressions that are very succinct expressions of very complex clinical ideas that will manifest themselves in thousands of codes all around the world and will work across our international data network. So hope you had the experience of seeing that and hopefully got some tips and tricks about that. Secondly, I want you to recognize that using the vocabulary does require that you develop skills in understanding the vocabularies. A lot of times we get questions on the OHDSI forums about like what's going on, and sometimes it's framed as like what's wrong with the OHDSI vocabularies. Just to be clear, like what you've just learned is there's a lot of wealth in SNOMED, but you need to understand SNOMED. There's a lot of wealth of information that we have in the RX norm classification and ATC, but you need to understand those vocabularies. And as Vlad just nicely went through, there's a lot of really great insights that we can learn about measurements by using both SNOMED and LOINC, but it requires understanding of those vocabularies. And I don't want you guys to shy away from that. It's a great opportunity to really leverage your data by taking advantage of vocabularies to make things more analytically rigorous. Well, the third, and probably the main thing I want you to take away, if nothing else, is that we have a ridiculously talented vocabulary team as part of our OHDSI community who's here to help you. So if you all are on the journey of doing research and have questions about how to use the vocabulary, we're all here to help you. And you just got a tutorial from the leaders of our vocabulary who are doing spectacular work on behalf of the community to make this resource available to all of you. But it's not just about you downloading the vocabulary, it's also about you all engaging in the community with our community leaders in the vocabulary to learn from them and benefit from their experience. And I encourage you to take advantage of these relationships now that you have them as you're moving forward in your own research. So that I want to thank you all for participating and thank the faculty for all of their great work in putting this session together. And I look forward to seeing you all over the coffee break and in the rest of the symposium for the next 2 days. Thank you very much.